family bank without vision, protection, and structure is just a waste of wealth. Family banking, part 2. Now, first thing is vision. What is your vision when you're building a family bank? What is a family bank? Well, first let's start with that. Family bank is your legacy, okay? You've worked hard, okay, you've taken care of everything, you've set everything up. Maybe you have a lot of money. Maybe you're wealthy. Maybe you're really family oriented. You have a huge family. You want to take care of everybody, or at least make sure that your children are taken care of. Well, a family bank is structures where the money is in a trust and allows generations to utilize that money through various means to be able to start a business, buy a house, get an education, or whatever you desire. But you build it in a trust, okay? You set it in specific parameters and making sure that your children understand how to carry it on. It could be for your immediate family. It could be for your extended family. It could be for 2 generations, 3 generations. A lot of this could be based on how much money you actually have invested into this trust. Now, the second part, because I do talk about it in a previous video, the second part is the vision. What do you want out of this family bank? What is your goal? Are you setting up to make sure that they have funds to, go to college or buy a house? What is your vision? So when you set up a family bank, you really want to think it through, okay? So to give you an example, if you want to make sure that your extended family is included, nieces, nephews, maybe families, cousins and so forth, then maybe your vision is to make sure that everyone in your bloodline is taken care of for the future. It could be your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, and so on, well after you're gone, okay? Your vision could be small or it could be big, but you've got to create one, because that's going to define, when you set up your trust, how do you set it up, what you specify in that trust on how you want that money to be dispersed or shared with others, okay? The next one is making sure, how do you protect that? How do you protect that family bank? Obviously you want to make sure that you have a actual formal trust set up that actually specifies and breaks down how the money's distributed, how do you get paid back? Well, in this case, family banking, the way that's set up is maybe you loan out $50,000 to somebody to put down as down payment on a house. The cousin goes to borrow money. Well, how do you get that? You don't want them to pay you back out of their salary, so you set up a life insurance policy, a permanent life insurance policy that will pay back the trust when they pass. Then that goes into the trust. So it's always being funded. It's always money's going back into that bank. Okay, that's called family banking. Okay, but that is a structure of how how to protect that family bank. So it's never going to run out of money. It's always just flowing. Okay. The next thing you want to consider is, what rules do you want to put behind there? Or what do you want to make sure that those who you're going to leave the bank to, your children, your grandchildren, and so on, that they have structure, because you got to treat it like a business. What do they follow? Did you give them parameters, on distribution of funds, how the money is going to be, paid back from the person that borrows the money? Is there going to be, something of, what happens if they don't pay it back? Well, that's where you set up a C Corp and you have a business structure set up to where the trust is the owner and the actual, the owner of the insurance policy, as well as the beneficiary, so they can control it all, okay? Knowing that you're gonna get that money back, because that insurance policy is gonna grow over time, and then that eventually comes back into the bank, the family bank. The last thing is rules, okay? Branding. Let's say your brand, you have a business, okay, and you set it up to where it's the Jones Trust, the brand, the business can be Jones or whatever, and it could be any type of, business that you've created. But you have to understand the brand is important. So you got to make sure that your family isn't doing anything foolish. Okay, there could be rules like, okay, if they get in a felony or they get in trouble with the law, they get in trouble with, doing things that are going to not be legal, that they're excluded or they don't have access to that bank account, So you really want to think about when you're setting up a family bank, it's not just setting up a trust, putting a bunch of money in and say, hey guys, use it wisely, because things change over generations. You actually want to put structure in it, and the way you do it is through a trust, using tools to make sure that it's protected, with your brand's protected, the trust is protected, the funds are protected, and everybody understands their role in protecting that family bank.